This conference will now be recorded.
I'm Bob Schwartz. I'm a member of the Gardner Planning Board. Travis?
Travis Condon, Public Affairs Manager for the North Central Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce. We're also the North Central Mass Development Corporation and the Visit North Central Massachusetts, the Regional Tourism Council for the area.
Brian?
Brian Doherty, Transportation Projects Director at Montachusett Regional Planning.
Ms. Faxon?
Beth Faxon, I'm the representative for the Townsend Planning Board.
Just continue on because a couple don't have names. Hello, continue on.
Janet Tice, Shirley Planning Board.
So it looks like we may all see different
Yeah, they're all mics are off.
different orders on our screen. So I can call out the names as I see them on the attendees list. George from MRPC.
This is George at the MRPC. I've been a transportation planner here for 26 years now.
That's George Snow. Guy Corbacero,
Oh.
Winchendon.
Oh, hi, Guy. Well, I won't pursue that any further.
We've had varying success with this, Bob.
Yeah, I know.
Do you
won't
want me to
waste
keep
time.
on reading
No,
off the list?
no, never mind.
Okay.
Next thing on the agenda is any public comments. I see or hear none. Next one is the approval of the May 8th, 2024 minutes. Can I have a motion? Oh,
So moved, Guy Corbacero, Winchendon. Just so my introduction and also my comeback. Thank you.
I'll second
thank you
that
very
motion.
much, Guy. Okay. And then by consensus, we'll approve. If there are no objections, or if there are objections, I hear or see none. Move on to the next item. Item 4. Report of the nominating committee. Brian, I think you volunteered to do that. Oh, we shamed you
Yes.
into it, one or the other.
Yep. Thanks, Bob. So as we mentioned last month, every year around this time, we need to nominate officers for the JTC for the upcoming fiscal year. So this starts in July. In this case, we're going by the state fiscal year. So we met Bob Schwartz, Travis Condon, and Beth Faxon volunteered to be on the nominating committee. They also happen to be the current chair, vice chair, and secretary of the group. So they were tasked with coming up with a slate of officers, and I'm trying to get that up on the screen. And I apologize, it may be small, but you should see the slate of officers on the screen now. So what they came up with was basically the same as we have now. Chair, Robert Schwartz from Gardner. Vice Chair, Travis Condon, North Central Mass Chamber of Commerce. And Secretary, Beth Faxon from Townsend. They all had mentioned that they were willing to volunteer again this year. However, if there was anyone who wishes to volunteer and step up and take one of the positions, they would happily oblige. So the process for this is the nominating committee came up with this slate. We're presenting it today to the group. We're taking floor nominations both today or next month, and we'll come back first order of business in July and vote on the officers for FY25. So with that being said, this is the slate as it is right now. Are there any additional nominations from the floor or anyone who is looking to volunteer for one of these positions?
Come on, 10 members.
Well, I will say if
Anybody
there's,
that raise your hand. Go ahead.
yes. Yeah, Bob, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I
Okay.
interrupted you. Sorry.
Well, if there is any interest, just so you know, it's very light lifting. Basically, the chair is responsible for running the meetings. If the chair is not there, the vice chair steps in, and if both the chair and vice chair are not there, the secretary would do it. There's no minute taking, no obligations outside of 2:30 p.m. the second Wednesday of the month. So, and I'm always willing to run the meeting if need be. With that being said, please reach out to me if you are interested in volunteering for one of these positions. As I mentioned, each current officer, the same people you see on the slate, is willing to relinquish their role if there's an interest from anyone else. So reach out to me, and first order of business in July at our meeting is to vote on the officers for 2025. So that's what we'll do. I think that
Item
does it for
5 on
that.
the. Go ahead.
I think
Item
that.
5 on the.
Sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
Item 5 on the agenda. Admission of the CHNA 9 as an organizational member of the MTC.
Yep. Okay. So I'll take this too, and I think I'm sharing my screen properly again.
Yep.
Okay. So we have a request from the North Central, Health Equity Partnership of North Central Massachusetts, also known as Chana 9, for officially join the JTC as an organizational member. Chelsea Patrice is their executive director. She's here. She's been at many of these meetings in the past. Chelsea's been involved in the planning landscape in the region for a long time. So it's great to have interest from Chana 9 in the group, and staff certainly recommends admission as an organizational member to Chana 9 and to Chelsea. So we will need to take a consensus vote to admit Chana 9 to the group. But before we do that, Chelsea, did you want to give a brief overview of what Chana 9 is and what your role has been? And I will say too, the next item on the agenda is a Chana 9 related agenda item as well, the future of mobility. So you can save some fire for that as well.
Sure. So just a update on, before I do the update on transportation, just what Chana 9 is. So the Health Equity Partnership of North Central Mass is essentially a convening organization dedicated to community health and community engagement in the region. We serve all 27 cities and towns of North Central Mass. And we do things like work with the institutions on the health assessment that is done by the hospitals every 3 years. We hold the community health improvement plan for the region. We work with the Anchor Collaborative, which is a group of North Central institutions dedicated to leveraging their economic power to drive economic development in the region. And we essentially serve as like an incubator for systems change work. So what we do is bring together over 200 plus institutions and agencies and government individuals and other kinds of partners to think about the big issues and how to solve them at the root cause level. We've been around since 1992. We're not going anywhere. Going strong. So that's who we are.
Chelsea, where
Great.
is your office located?
So we only have 2 staff members and we both work from home. Most
Oh,
of our time is spent out in the community, going to other people's meetings and taking meetings all over the place. So I am based in Westminster, and previously was based in Gardner.
thank you. Brian, do we
Okay,
really
so,
want to take a vote on this?
well, according to our bylaws, it's okay if we take a consensus vote. I know it gets complicating taking a formal vote, but we're allowed to
Okay,
take a consensus vote on this to admit Chenal as an organizational member and Chelsea as a member of the group. So if there's a motion for that in a second, and we can go from there.
okay.
Make the
I
motion.
move, and I'll second that Janad 9 be a member of the MRPTC. Or are there any objections? I see or hear none. Welcome aboard, Chelsea.
Thank you.
And next, item 6, the future of mobility. I guess Chelsea Pratis has a presentation or something to say about it.
I do actually have some slides, Brian. Is it okay if I share?
Sure. Yep. Let me just hand it over.
And if Sherry wants to jump in at any point, Sherry Bean has been co-leading this effort.
Chelsea, and I apologize, my camera is not working for some reason, so I am here though. So chime in as needed.
That's fine. That's fine. Let me see. This is not my usual mode of, here we go. That is what you can see. Yes, okay. All right, so we have been meeting as a group on the future of mobility since December, and just background on that, the reason the Chenal took that on was because we had done some community health assessment, gone and spoken with over 160 people through a community charrette process. And one of the things that came up as being fundamental to moving every other aspect of health forward in the region was having strong and connected transportation and access to that for everyone. And that was universal among, both rural and urban participants and across all demographics. So we took the time to kind of think about what our place in that was, since we are not a planning agency or a transportation provider, and decided that our role really was convener. And so we've been bringing together the transportation providers, the planners, the municipalities, and the institutions to really develop a common vision and a master plan for transportation and mobility across the whole region. So this is the draft vision statement. There's also draft values that we have, that the group has come up with. So that mobility means that it is accessible, reliable, holistic, meaning that it benefits everyone's mental, physical, financial health, that it benefits communities, our economies, our institutions, and the environment. That mobility means that it is human-centered and that it is multimodal. So it's coordinated across partnerships within our region and interregionally. We've also gone through, I'm going through this really quickly because this is months worth of meetings and work. And some of you have been involved in it. And if you have not been, we certainly welcome you to become a part of it. So we did a strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis, or SWOT analysis. The overwhelming results were that we have a very collaborative community and very engaged stakeholders. Those are our strengths. We have some existing infrastructure, organizational, political, and physical infrastructure that can be built upon. Some of the weaknesses, obviously there's been a historic lack of funding for transportation in our region. We tend to be a rather car dependent region, and so there isn't maybe that habit or the idea of transportation as necessary and valuable in all of our communities. We have, rurality, so that's wide areas, low population density that can make transportation in its traditional modes not economical and not necessarily feasible. And we tend to have insufficient interconnectivity and coordination among partners. We have opportunities to create a culture shift where people do value and use transportation, transit, where our stakeholders come together to improve their customer, client, employee experience, and that can lead to a thriving local economy, where we know that transportation is a barrier to workforce development in our region. We can capitalize on the existing networks and organizational leadership that we have, and the momentum that is being generated. And then, of course, threats are obviously that there's always ongoing funding push-pull of when there is funding that is going out for certain community needs, is it being taken away from other areas, and how do we ride those waves? There are, conventional mindsets that need to be kind of shaken up. And we have some need to address the whole population rather than focusing only on our highest density population centers, if we're really going to achieve transportation that's accessible to all. We also did what's called polarity mapping, which is how do we do that balancing act between our short-term planning and our long-term planning. So we view long-range planning as our 20-year plan, and the short-term planning as more the 1 to 5 year plan. And as we're looking at those, obviously we need to do some balancing of that. We cannot, put all of our energy into long-range planning, but we need to keep our eyes on how those short-range goals are feeding a larger long-term plan. We did a couple of other things, such as submitting a group letter of comments on the Beyond Mobility Plan, which was also sent out to the group for signing on to. They were also encouraged to submit their own comments for the Beyond Mobility Plan. I'm breezing through some of this. We've been advocating for the RTA funding bill, which is in good shape. So that has been really beneficial, I think, and created some good momentum because there actually is funding. We know that several of the projects that were proposed in our region have been approved for this particular year, and we're working to pull all of those funded partners together to really talk about how their projects align and can be of benefit to one another. The last thing we did was we started to do some power mapping to really understand in our region, when we talk about multiple partners who are involved in transit and mobility planning, who are the decision makers, what do each of our partners have to offer, who influences them, what do those influencers want, and what do they gain, what do they risk or lose, and so that we can understand who has the most forward momentum, the most willingness to partner, and where should we put the most resources and energy into starting pilot projects and partnerships. And we did a little bit of asset mapping, and now I'm going to stop sharing. Nope, that's leave meeting. Sorry. Okay. All right, I don't know how to stop sharing. You can just take it away from me if you can. The last thing that we have been doing is, as a convening organization that is not a transportation planning organization and has multiple other projects that we head up, we have decided that we are at a point where we really need to kind of pass this on to a professional consultant who can do, or consulting group who can take this master planning project further. And so we have drafted an RFP that is going to be going out fairly soon. Our team is running it by a couple of professionals in the transportation world to get some feedback before we release it. But we are going to be looking for a transportation planning group that can take on essentially the rest of a year-long master planning process to really get us to a point where we have the organizational structures, whether that's a transportation management association, what the new RCC might look like, any other organizational structures that need to be developed in order for us to apply for and maximize our chances of getting funding for transportation projects, where there's the right combination of champions and opportunity for piloting certain projects and really tying those into the long range planning for ultimately everyone in the region to have some form of accessible transportation. Okay, that's it. I talked a lot. Sherry, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, you covered everything that I could think of. Thanks, Chelsea.
Okay. And I know
Yeah.
Grace and Travis and a couple of other people have been, and Tyler definitely have been at those meetings. So if anybody else wants to chime in on anything that I've missed, or if anybody has questions.
Yeah, I'd like to commend Chelsea and Chennai 9 for spearheading this whole thing, and the whole planning exercise involved with the future of mobility has really been great, and we plan on continuing on to support that and helping out where we can and feeding off each other, not just for this project, but for others as well. So really glad that Chennai 9's a member now, the JTC, and that there's more back and forth, and looking forward to support the effort going forward. So thank you.
And I'd just like to echo that sentiment. And having gone to those meetings, it's tough when you do planning meetings sometimes. But Chelsea and Sherry have done such a fantastic job in their team of making this an engaging process. And I feel like every time we come away from that meeting, we'll learn something new.
Thanks, Travis. I also wanted to include that I know we have a great group of people already involved currently, but we'd love to see more communities come together, like a variety of communities. So if there's anybody, whether it's yourself or somebody else in your community that you think would be a good fit for this type of planning work, please reach out and send us their contact information so we can include them or at least have them on the mailing list so they know what's going on. That would be, I think, really helpful.
Very good, thank you. Brian, is George Cahaley on? Did he sign in?
He is not here. No.
Okay. I say we could include him to say a few things about what the Mart's doing, but I'm not going to speak for him. Thank you. We'll go on to the next item. Contract status reports. Federal Transit Administration. Is anyone
Yeah.
there representing?
So under this item, typically we'll highlight we have a joint contract, DOT, Mass DOT, FTA, and Federal Highway. That's the main contract we work off of. We can give an update on a project we're working on under the FTA funding. Tyler Godin from our staff is here to talk about transit development plan in the Fitchburg, Leominster, and Gardner area. Go ahead, Tyler.
Very good.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So like Brian said, I'm just going to go over a current UPWP transit task that we're working on. It's a transit development plan for Mart's fixed bus routes. So the objective of this task is to create an updated transit development program for the fixed routes in Fitchburg, Leominster, and Gardner. So to do this, we will look at and examine the current system and identify how to improve route services and route times, with the overall goal being to create shorter route loops, identify frequency and shorter ride times, while also making sure that the routes go to, any like new developments that might have come into the region before these or after these routes were developed. So we will review the community needs and requirements, identify any critical infrastructure, and anything that could be like key attraction to the area, major population centers. And there's going to be a particular focus on the environmental justice populations. So we're through a series of maps and tables, that's how we identify them. So how we're going to go about doing this is first start off by, well, we're currently looking at the current transit services in operation. That will give us an idea of any recommendations on where to locate new services or how to improve route times and frequencies. And then, like I said, we're identifying any environmental justice populations, the transit dependent populations, such as elderly, people living in poverty, people without a vehicle in their household. And then we're also looking at services and facilities in the area, as well as major housing developments, making sure that they have the proper transit services within that area. And then currently we have a survey out right now. It's been open for about a month, and that's just to get public input on the MART services within these areas. And that gives people a chance to say, how they feel about it, how it can be improved, where they would like to see new bus stop locations, things like that. And so far it's available online, and I distributed paper copies throughout several different municipal buildings within these cities. We've got a little over 100 responses, I believe, right now. We're also going to be distributing some paper copies on some of the actual buses. Hopefully we'll be able to do that later this month. And then based on all our findings, we're going to develop some service recommendations, how they can improve and optimize their service. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Item 8, administrative matters.
I actually have a few items under contract status reports. As we mentioned before, George Cahaley, I don't believe, is here today. So the RTA update, I don't think there is one. Under Mass DOT, this is indirectly related to our contract, which this item is meant to cover. But basically, we're relaying some information from Mass DOT, an opportunity for signage from them to municipalities. And this is in relation to an act to reduce fatalities, which was a law signed um, in December of 2022. And basically, this law regards in passing a vulnerable user, the operator of a motor vehicle shall pass at a safe distance of not less than 4 feet and at a reasonable and proper speed. So basically, this is what this law says. You may have seen some of these signs up already. DOT has put a number of these up. However, they're unable to install these on municipal roadways, so they're making them available to municipalities who may see a need for these signs on some of their roads. This is a memorandum of agreement. If you fill this out and send it to Mass DOT, the contacts within this document, they will send you some signs. This is, I think, the second or third round that they've reached out with this opportunity. So we just wanted to make sure that we're getting it out to the communities. Aside from that, George Snow has an update on another Mass DOT venture related to a survey. George?
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, I just want to give the heads up on this survey that Mass DOT is conducting on vulnerable road users at bus stops. And this survey will focus on primarily municipal bus stops as opposed to the RTA bus stops. However, I'm not really clear on that yet. So, but I've just really been informed about this. And this survey is going to be, can you scroll down, Brian? Yeah, this survey is really pretty easy to fill out. Just ask for contact information and then for the location of the bus stop that has a safety issue. And so you zoom in on that map and to the location that you want to go to, and give a little write up. If you scroll a little further down, it asks for a description of the location. So it's a very easy survey to build up to complete. And again, I'm just learning about this now, and I'll be sending out more information about this survey. What's the goal, STU's goal in doing this? So basically, it wants to address the pedestrian issues at bus stops. 40% of the 40% of the crashes that occur at related to pedestrians involve pedestrians within 300 feet of a bus stop. So that's what it wants to address. The survey wants to address is that issue. And again, I'll be sending out an email to a lot of the communities for the next 3 days describing this project. And we're, so I just want you to look forward to that coming. Thank you.
Brian, I just wanted to, we have some people asking for the survey links for the transit one that Tyler was discussing, and then maybe George, I don't know if you want to try to put that survey link information in the chat as well. Just a thought, because I have a couple people asking about it.
Okay, let me try to put that survey link in the chat.
I'm going to put the TDP link in the chat right now.
Yeah, go ahead and put it in there. If you have any questions, let me know. But I have other contact information from Mass DOT, contacts at Mass DOT. So again, I'll be emailing you in the next few days with further information on this survey. It will contain all the information you need to fill out that survey out.
Yeah, that does it for contract status reports. Bob, it looks like we can't hear you again. I can see you, and I can see
Yeah.
that your microphone's on. Oh, okay. Here we go.
Yeah. As far as Gardner on the appointment forms, we had our planning board meeting last night and I got reappointed. So they should be submitting the appointment forms very soon.
Okay,
I don't know.
great. Yeah, and that was going to be part of my administrative matters update. So those appointment forms were sent out in May, I think, to all planning boards and board of selectmen. So a planning board and a board of selectmen both appoint a member from each community to this group. There's also organizational members. We discussed Chennai 9 earlier. North Central Mass Chamber of Commerce. Travis is here. We have a number of other organizations that have been involved in the past as well. So if there's any interest in becoming a member, please reach out to me and I can get you the appropriate forms. We have a due date for June 30th for these forms to come back, but send at any time. If you don't have a meeting until July, that's fine. So this is really for this next coming fiscal year, starting July. The next on updates, MJTC schedule for 2025. I touched upon this briefly at last month's meeting. Just a heads up on some items coming up down the pipeline. As I mentioned last month, we've finished many of our federally required documents for the year, the TIP and the UPWP update. Those were endorsed by the NPO last month. Typically, what we see for in terms of regular business is TIP amendments. So this group is responsible for reviewing all these federally required documents and making recommendations to the NPO. So that's really the basis of what our function is. That business has slowed down to a certain extent. I do, as I mentioned, plan on soliciting some other agenda items that may be of interest. Of course, we had the presentation on future mobility today. Similar type of items I'd like to put in the future. However, as work slows down, I would probably entertain starting next month to go on a every other month schedule with this group until business picks up again heavily in January of 2025 with the federal documents coming up again. We do anticipate a few TIP amendments that will be discussed by the NPO next week. So we will have to have a July meeting. That meeting will also finalize the nomination of the officers. So we do have some official business in July. Our July MJTC meeting will be scheduled on July 10th. That'll be remotely 2:30 as always. One other thing I would like to mention is the NPO typically is the third Wednesday of the month in June. That falls on a holiday. It's on Juneteenth. So that group will meet on the following day, so Thursday the 20th. And at that meeting, they'll be discussing some TIP amendments, which we'll get a chance to review at a July meeting. So that's administrative matters. Oh, one more thing. I did put a copy of the bylaws into the handouts. This is just for informational purposes. I find it useful to revisit this. And as we come to the end of this fiscal year, it could be useful. And I'll be trying to solicit some new membership and some new attendees at these meetings. So it's useful to review this every once in a while. So this is for your information. As I mentioned, next meeting we have tentatively scheduled for July 10th at 2:30.
Very good. Thank you, Brian. Is there anything else that anybody wants to bring out, talk about?
This is Janet Tice. I just wonder if we could get a copy of Chelsea's PowerPoint. Thank you.
That would be a good idea. Thank you.
Chelsea, if you forward that to me, I'll make sure everyone in the group gets it.
Great, thank you.
Oh, I was just wondering, how did the public meeting go for the safety action plan? I wasn't able to attend. Anybody go?
Well, we had limited attendance. I can say that. We had a similar presentation to what this group received in May from the consultants. We will be doing some additional solicitation of involvement in that group moving forward, especially as the data process kind of ends and the real like meat and potatoes of the planning begins. And it's really important to be involved because ultimately some funding will be available for some of these safety projects. And this is in regards to the Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan. We did have a public meeting at Fitchburg State University a few Thursdays ago. I think it was June 30th.
May 30th, yep. Mm.
I would just like to add that our consultant has done many of these types of plans, and they're always running across this at the first public meeting where there's low attendance. And, basically it's because, it's just the first meeting. It doesn't really go into detail about locations and about specific goals and, and things like that. Usually at the later meetings, attendance increases as priorities are established and so on. So it's not unusual for the first meeting, public meeting, to not be well attended. So
George, will notices come out when the next meetings are going to be scheduled, or are they already out?
there's no schedule. The meetings haven't been scheduled yet. I think
Okay.
it will probably be in the fall, in September. I think it might be or so. So,
All right.
but it's tentative right now.
Something to look forward to. Thank you.
Yeah, and as that process progresses, we'll have some more material for this group to review as well with the SS4A.
Thank you.
Next thing is adjournment. If no one has anything else to say, then I'll call for an adjournment. The meeting of the MJTC is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you everyone for participating.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
See you all in July.